James not only tells us we're going to be judged under the law of liberty, he tells us to act accordingly. All right? How? This is Looking Intently. I'm going through the book of James right now in these short videos, and to make sure you don't miss any of them, click that subscribe button in the lower right and then that bell icon when it appears. And then lately I've been putting a poll in the upper right, and today's poll is about polls. I want to know, do you like them? Click on the tab up there and answer yes or no. Well, we looked at verse 12 last time. So speak and so act as those who are to be judged under the law of liberty. And I focused on the law of liberty. What is it? And we talked about it. It's this idea of being judged, the basis of our salvation being whether we have faith or not. Not our level of works, but our faith. But I want to focus on that first part where he says, so speak and so act as those who are to be judged under the law of liberty. All right, what's that mean? How should I, because I'm to be judged under the law of liberty, how should I speak? How should I act? And to answer any question, again, the key is the context. Oftentimes it's the verses before. Usually here it's mainly the verse after. Verse 13, James writes, "For judgment is without mercy to one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment." Okay, how do you bring up mercy? What's the connection there? Well, you remember the NIV says those who are to be judged in verse 12, judge under the law that gives freedom. Freedom from what? Well, specifically freedom from the punishment that our sins deserve. That's what mercy is. We often talk about, God's grace and God's mercy. Do you know the difference between the two? Grace is the idea of God giving us good that we don't deserve. Matter of fact, we deserve the opposite. My favorite definition of grace is favor bestowed when wrath is owed. Well, mercy is the withholding of that wrath, withholding of the punishment. It focuses on that side. That's what we've received from God. And so what James is pointing out here, as someone who's to be judged under the law that, gives freedom from punishment, as someone who has received mercy, it would be totally incongruous, incompatible with our Christian life and faith and commitment for us not to show mercy to someone else. For us to give them the punishment they deserve when we have received mercy from God. Saying we need to forgive. Matter of fact, the Bible talks about this so strongly. Jesus says on more than one occasion, Matthew 6 is one of the places, but he makes the point, he says, "For if you forgive others their trespasses, show mercy, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." Do you realize that a verse like that is there? Don't get confused. It is not saying, you're not good enough. Your level of works isn't high enough to be saved. What it's talking about is if you absolutely refuse to forgive, it's not that you don't earn grace. You never earned it anyway. But you're basically spurning grace. You're just rejecting it, whether you realize it or not. That verse is saying if we refuse to forgive, we won't be forgiven. That's what James is talking about. We're being judged under this law of liberty, freedom from the punishment we deserve. We have to show that same mercy. How else does it apply? Well, I think you could even look at, this verse. It comes after the first verse in the chapter where he talked about showing partiality and showing favoritism. In other words, judging a person. And you see there, it's based on this external thing, whether they're rich or poor. And, and not having any mercy, for those differences or whatever. And, he closes this section by saying mercy triumphs over judgment. And that's certainly true of God. God's mercy triumphs over his judgment. The judgment that says we deserve punishment, well, God, through the sacrifice of Christ on the cross, is able to show us mercy instead. James is saying our mercy needs to triumph over any judgments we might make in this negative sense of, looking at those external things. Well, think of an area in your life as we seek to end this and apply, as always, how do I put it in practice in my life? Think of an area of your life, an action or an attitude that's contrary to the mercy that you've been shown by God. Is there something where, again, I'm not showing the kind of mercy God has shown me? If so, and this is true of all believers, we know what we should do. So if we're not, there's usually something we use to justify it. What is it you're using to justify not showing mercy in some situation? And how does God's mercy impact that? Do you stop and think, I've been shown mercy by God for my sins. To the fullest extent, it required the death of the Son of God on the cross. What does it require of me to show mercy to someone else? How should God impact me? And, the answer is usually pretty clear there. We just need to work it out and see it. And then ask, as always, what am I going to do? Tangibly, what am I going to do to live by, to live out, follow this example of mercy, and then pray to God for the strength to do it, because it's not easy. As always, as part of this and everything else, as we seek to live this Christian life and follow God, be sure and read the good book, like a good book.